Hi, welcome to Clutter Bravado.
Yes, and it's the energy. It's not just about the stuff.
So we should probably just get into it, right?
Let's go.
Is it recording?
It is.
Happy New Year, Laurent.
Bonne année.
Bonne année.
And welcome back from your big trip.
Thank you. Thank you. I had a wonderful time. It was great. I was all over the place. And you were here.
I was.
Before I talk about my trip, I want to know what your experience was like ringing in the new year here.
Towards the end of the year, I felt slightly overwhelmed and decided that I was going to recenter, refocus, recharge, reinvigorate,
Okay.
isolate. So I did a Christmas Eve with very dear friends, Laurent and Elyse, in Palm Desert. That was amazing. And then I had a couple, I went to Thomas Lavin at an event on the 26th. I went
Great.
yeah. And then for 6 days, I just came here, no screens, lots of books. It was amazing. The
That's
weather
incredible.
was beautiful.
Yeah.
Went on a couple amazing hikes. So it was fun. I mean, I do love Southern California and Christmas. It's kind of not a white Christmas, but it's heaven.
It is not. Yeah, I was a little jealous of the weather, not going to lie. But to be perfectly honest with you, New York was warm while I was there. It was in the 50s.
That's amazing.
I know. It snowed really heavy today. I got a video of like some serious snow this morning, so
You escaped right on time.
I just narrowly missed it. But I love the idea of a complete digital detox. In this year, one of the things that I really want to prioritize is not escaping into my phone, not escaping into screens, and allowing myself to really get present and read more and all of that. So I love that you got a head start on that. That's great.
I did.
Amazing.
And he made me rethink where we live, how we live, what our role as interior designers are, maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly. Something that we'll explore, I hope, a lot more on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because it was really interesting. It was, the first day I was dying. So I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. Well, someone could say that maybe you have an addictive personality, even though it seems that. But, you give me a cigarette, it's going to be 2 packs. You give me, And so I think it's the same thing with phone or TV.
Absolutely.
And I had an actual 2 days of actual withdrawals.
Withdrawal, yeah.
I was like looking at the remote control or the phone and be like, I'm shaking. So,
Wow.
I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah.
But it was eye-opening.
Yeah, and it's very hard to do. I'm definitely addicted to my phone. I know that. The only problem is that we're all doing it.
Right.
And we all kind of have to. Like, in order for this podcast to be seen, people have to find out about it on various social media platforms. It's available on a social media platform, And how do I detox from the things that don't serve me to allow myself to focus more on posting with intention and consuming with intention? I also feel that, and this is something that we've talked about a little bit, we'll talk about it a lot more, but how your space supports the habits that you want to create for the coming year, or like healthy habits. And I feel like you really lucked out because the space here, it's really cozy in here. And there are no TVs. I'm sure that you have one, but it's not intended to be a place where you just sit and disappear into your phone or into a TV. It's not tech focused. It's really focused on creating a community in your space and entertaining and having people here and having conversation. And I notice how when I'm here, it's very rare that I'm just like popping open TikTok and like disappearing into it. Granted, I'm working usually, but it makes this having a space like this really supports. It's a cozy place to read.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was that. But living here, I mean, it's I was managing to disappear in my phone. I was managing to watch way too many TV shows that I don't. I love TV, but I have to be more thoughtful of what I watch and not just being mindless of.
Were you watching like Love Island? Is that what you're saying?
No, I did
90 Day
not
Fiancé.
watch any of the Housewives. I missed
None of the housewives.
the baking show. I didn't do either.
Oh, no?
Apparently it's very good, but
It is very good.
I did not go down that.
Okay.
But there are some things that I won't. That I've been
Yeah.
watching that it's like probably could be
Yeah.
spending time sleeping,
Yeah.
thinking,
Yes.
journaling. I've also been starting to. I mean, it's a practice that I've had for a while, but the meditation practice has been
Yeah.
maybe paying some dividend, and just thinking about having a space for it.
Yeah.
Where it's like it makes sense. You go there, and it puts you in that mood, and that was. And I did set up a small space for it, and I think it helped.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to talk to a lot more people about how we help healthier, because I agree with you. Technology, it's there. We have to use it.
Yes.
We can't fight that battle of being like, oh, I'm gonna get a flip phone. Probably not realistic, but
I have a flip phone. I just haven't turned it on and started using it yet because I can't disconnect from my current phone. But I own one for the just in case.
So just in case, I could have used that. But now it's time to look at, can our interiors help us with healthier habits, be it for the family, a couple, the kids. How do we set that up? How do we promote?
Yeah. So a lot of our episodes coming up this year are going to be more focused on that, on talking to designers about how to create the kind of space that you want to really live in.
Right.
Yeah. Or entertain in, or how to do that. Learning more about how people who are in the industry, and also just people who've kind of like figured it out. I want to get to know more about, what the people who have found success, especially in the interior design industry, like what are their life habits that really help them to get there? That's a huge thing for me, but also how they're able to incorporate that into the home. So we'll be talking a lot more about that in the future in our coming episodes.
One thing I was thinking is that we used to, as an antique dealer, we used to have tons of game table. It's like that was something that from the 18th century, backgammon, and but we had game tables, and now I feel like that's something that went away.
Yeah.
And yet play is a huge part of our life, and do we need to bring that back, to compensate from
bringing back play?
Yeah.
In the home?
Yeah.
Yes.
For kids, for adults.
For
a couple, for
yes.
adults. And so it's interesting because I'm like, all right, so do we need to design a game table? Maybe we need Kimberly
Denman I like that idea.
Design a game table.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
So, but it was fun. It was fun to think about all those things.
Yeah, I like that. Your time here by yourself during the holidays was like an incubation space for you, where you could like get some ideas and start to mull them over, starting to flesh some things out. And honestly, it's really neat to be in your presence and like see this like energy that you have. You have so much of it. It's really lovely.
I hope that I'm going to keep that.
Yeah.
I also, realistically, without a screen, your sleep is a little bit better.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that
all right.
I have to, yeah.
I kind of like, this is great because I feel like you talking about this right now is helping to hold me accountable to hit my goals when it comes to my screen time, and really actually not looking at my phone while in bed.
Yeah.
That's very hard to do, but I didn't do it this morning. I was on a phone call for a long time though, but
right.
that's
so
different.
that's different. But the funny thing is that I still look at my phone and I'm like, I don't remember what it was, and I'm like 4 hours of fun usage. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how did I have 4 hours?
Yeah.
It's like I was on the map because I was
Sure,
driving back
yeah.
So it's like there's things like that
There's
that you're
things
like
like
staring,
that.
you're like,
But just on certain apps, trying to make sure that I'm like dialing that way back. Yes, yes, absolutely. I feel like my holidays were nothing like yours.
no.
The amount of people that I was in contact with over the 10 or 11 days that I was gone. Woo. Wow. Okay, so I was in Chicago and then I was in New York. And I got to hang out with my boyfriend's family and with my family, and he met my parents and like all this stuff. It was like a really, really wonderful holiday, lots of family time. And then we got to explore Chicago, which is really fun. Went to the Art Institute there and spent a day just sort of wandering around and just taking in so much art. And then went to New York, and then I got a cold.
Welcome to New York.
Luckily it wasn't, I don't think that it's the same thing that's been like going around, because everybody that's had it has apparently been like sick for like 2 weeks or something. And I was down for a couple of days and I'm, back to normal. But yeah, I was all screens. I was watching so much TV, watching movies and just staying in, just being cuddled up. But what I do want to share with you is that I went to go see Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club. I talked about this on the last episode, and how I was so excited to see it. And I saw it. Unfortunately, Adam Lambert was not there that day.
Uh-oh.
I know, it was a last minute change and they didn't let you know until you're in line. And I was a little bit like a little bummed out, but then I'm like, I have a feeling I'm really going to like the understudy. I loved him.
Fun.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was such a great show. It's so immersive, and I like that they don't allow you to have your phone. Like you walk in and then they put a sticker over your phone. Over your camera. And a lot of people are like, it's just like when you're in Berlin. Like, no, it's not. They use the wrong size stickers. It's very inconvenient, actually. But it really reminded me, the beginning of it really, really reminded me of this experience that I had actually, like in Berlin and in Poland. I went to an artist residency for 2 weeks a couple of years ago. 4 years ago now? No.
It's like time
oh
flies.
Gosh. Oh no, is it really that long ago? But it was 3.5 years ago. But the sort of like self-expression and the playfulness and the sort of raunchiness of the first half of the show was just so fun, and it really felt authentic to me too. And it was something that like reminded me of a time of my life that I had so much fun, and it's so creative. And I also just love the musical Cabaret. I think that it's really smart. It's really beautiful. It's really emotional. I cried. And it's very topical, and there was a lot that was really moving about it, and how it really translates into into today, taking place so long ago. But I loved it. So that's my review. Big fan. Big fan. Oh my gosh, if you have the chance to go see it, go see it. It's amazing. And if you can see it with the understudy, honestly.
Well, I'll take any yes.
If you have to miss Adam Lambert, unfortunately, if you have to,
it's okay.
You are in good hands. You are in good hands. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So there was that. There was a play that I saw called All In. And that was it was really funny. It's like some great comedians, and John Mulaney, Chloe Fineman, Fred Armisen. Oh my gosh, what is his name? Richard Kind. Oh, okay. Whew. Got it. Anyway, but it was spectacular. I went to a random sushi restaurant in a basement in Manhattan and had one of the best meals of my life. So I had a lot of exploration time and a lot of fun in New York also, but I was for the most part just sort of
And you had a New Year's Eve
hanging out.
in New York
I
City.
did have a New Year's Eve in New York City.
That's exciting.
It was. It was really fun. The one thing I really like about New York is that there's a real vibe and there's a camaraderie there.
Yeah, the energy is.
The energy is amazing. Yeah. Here's the other thing about being in Chicago and then being in New York. There are so many people.
That year, yeah.
Okay, there are a lot of people in LA, but I'm in my car. You know, I'm isolated. I'm in my little box. I don't interact with people that often. Like I interact with you when I'm coming here, and I interact with occasionally other people when I'm teaching yoga. I'm interacting with my students and with the people that I work with, but I don't have a daily interaction with a lot of strangers here. And you don't realize that until you're in a place like Chicago or you're in a place like New York where you're taking public transportation, where you're walking on the streets with like a million people and you're just seeing so many faces. You're interacting with people, strangers constantly.
Right.
And it's such an interesting difference of just like a way of life. And it got overwhelming. Isn't it weird? Like I love being in social situations. I love people. I love going to parties and I love socializing. But yeah, just being surrounded by so many strangers all the time is so bizarre.
Yeah, it's part of the magic a little bit of it, but just briefly, I was in San Francisco at the time where people in San Francisco were like, oh yeah, we're like the New York on the West Coast. And I'd not gone to New York in a few years. I show up, the businessmen fly the red eye. I get there, I'm like completely destroyed. And I get out and I'm supposed to go meet, and I'm at the meet people, and I'm at the traffic light, and the hordes of people that carried me through that street on the first minute that I was in New York City, and I'm like, where are all those people coming from? I mean, it was just
and where are they
and
going?
I remember that feeling of being carried. And I'm like, if I fall, they're going to just walk all over me. I mean, they won't even notice that. I'm like, but it was weird because you don't get that anywhere else, and you don't really get it in even Paris, which is a walking city, which is a busy city. I don't get that same energy from that crowd, all those people that are walking through the city constantly. I think it's magical.
It is really interesting. It's just it's so different, and I don't realize how spoiled I am in my isolation here, where I can just be alone.
Right.
And I understand now why people can say that LA is a lonely city. Because it can be. Mm-hmm. It definitely can be. But yeah, New York is wild. It's fun. It's fun. But especially like we're going to Broadway shows like the night before New Year's Eve right off of Times Square.
Right.
The amount of people.
4 million people there, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was terrifying. Yeah. There was a moment that we like accidentally ended up in Times Square, and I'm like holding on to my boyfriend's hand, and I'm like, can we get out of here? He's like, yeah, we need to find a way out of here. It was really cute. We were just like stuck in a sea of people. But yeah, I do like a lot of things about New York. I am grateful that it was warm while I was there. But I had a really nice New Year's Eve, and it's been really nice to come back and like get my feet again and like settle into not just eating cookies and sandwiches for every meal. I was just eating the amount of cookies that I ate over the course of 10 to 11 days that I was gone. Unacceptable.
Well,
yes, I'm back to myself again. But anyway, we should probably get to our episode. Yeah, yep. We should get to our interview. So it's the conclusion of our San Francisco interviews with Jay Jeffers for this episode. And I loved sitting down with him.
He's a lovely man.
He's a lovely person. And I started doing a deep dive of a lot of his work. And he is so creative. And he has such an incredible, impeccable sense of style. And just his story is really beautiful. He's very inspirational. So we should probably...
I can't wait.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Welcome to Clutter Bravado. We are here with Jay Jeffers. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Yes. I think that's about the level that we're all at today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being here today, for taking time out of your schedule. I know that you're very busy with your interior design business, and with your hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I am so interested. Like, Laurent was telling me all about this recently, and so I'm so curious to know more about your hotel. But before we get started, what brought you here today? How did you get here today? What was your morning routine like?
My morning routine is my dog usually wakes me up with a little bit of a nudge. He's not a crazy like get up now, but he's a little bit like starts moving around like it's about breakfast time, I'm pretty sure. So, and then I will wake up slowly, and then we'll have a little cuddle time before we get out of bed. And then I say, "Are you hungry?" And he jumps up and runs into the kitchen. So I get up, I go feed him. Then we go out for a walk. We do our walkies. I get my coffee all set up because I can have it brew me a cup of coffee while I'm walking the dog. So I get that done.
You have like an app on your phone where you can do that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very specific about my coffee in the morning. And so I literally, while the dog's walking, when we get to a certain spot, I hit brew coffee so that my coffee is perfectly brewed right when I walk in. I turn all the lights back off. I go sit down. My dog and I have a routine where he waits for my legs to be up on the table, and because he likes to sleep on them in the morning.
Yeah.
Since he was a puppy, and now he's not a big dog, but now he's grown and he's like hanging over the sides. But it is like my favorite time of the morning, and I read my news and I do my Wordle, and I refuse to look at my social media until like later in the day. I do all of that, and then I kind of get my day going, whether it's gym or work or whatever it is. But that's my typical morning routine.
I love it. It sounds like that's something that's really grounding for you. And your dog, what's your dog's name?
Royal.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. Have a gratitude journal that I do during that some of the like 70% of the time.
Yeah.
So, it's very grounding for me to sort of get the day started that way.
Yeah. And we've had a few different designers on the show, and some of them are just like work all the time, always focus on work. And I love that you take a moment to just be settled in and just to really ground yourself before all of the things that you have going on. I think that there's something that's really, really valuable about that, and that's really admirable about that too. I know that I'm on Instagram instantly as soon as I wake up.
Are you?
Yeah.
It's hard not to. It's like I kind of have to make myself not, and once in a while I'll catch myself and I'll be like, "Wait, what are you doing? You're on Instagram. Like, get off of it right now." I will force myself off, but I'm a total morning person, and I realized many years ago that if I don't take time for myself in the morning, it won't happen any other time.
Oh yeah.
So it used to be like gym, and I'm still like I love working out and going to the gym, and I won't do it if I don't do it in the morning. So that's still a part of it. But this morning routine has been something I've done for several years, and I know that if I don't do it in the morning, it won't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a guest. I mean, it's to get after the day before the day gets you, because we all try to do that. I'm a little bit of I check the messages on if someone DM me on Instagram. And I'm like, but what's there?
I know. If I'm expecting a message back, I might check that too. I will admit.
I'm like, well, maybe someone DM me. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I can't wait until 9 o'clock in the morning, of course.
So beyond that, once you are getting into, like, where does your creativity come from in your design business? Like, how do you stay creative?
Oh my gosh. How do I stay creative? That's a great question. I don't know. I think we are, as creatives, it's innate in us to, to think of things in unusual and different ways. And so to be inspired, it's usually a lot of traveling. I just opened a small office and rented an apartment in New York last year, which is something I've wanted to do my entire life and haven't done. So New York to me is incredibly inspiring everywhere I go, everything I do. But it really, I think there is inspiration everywhere. Traveling certainly inspires me. But, I was walking down the street in San Francisco and saw some graffiti that I hadn't seen recently that I don't know if it's been there every time I've walked by it or if it's new, but it was something that caught my eye and stopped me in my tracks, and I took a picture of it. Those kind of things are always inspiring and help keep me creative, I think.
Having your eyes open and walking through the world with, like, letting the world show you something every day. I think that's really beautiful. And in your traveling, so you have an apartment in New York now. Mm-hmm. Are you originally from San Francisco?
I grew up in Texas.
You grew up in Texas?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What did that transition going from Texas to San Francisco look like for you?
Well, I think I was 23 when I moved here, and I had decided early on in my life, and early on meaning like in my teens, that I was definitely going to leave Texas at some point. That there was more to the world than Texas, which when you're from Texas, you often don't know that until you get out and see the world a little bit. But I think my first trip to New York, I think I was a sophomore in high school. And I think after that, I was like, okay, at some point I'm going to be moving out of Texas and see where I'm going. And at the time I was in advertising and marketing. That was what my degree was in. And that's what my first job out of school in Austin, Texas was. And so I moved to San Francisco because it was sort of the hotbed of advertising at the time. Yeah. And that's kind of what... I'd been here once, and so I loved this. I thought the city was beautiful, so I was kind of debating between San Francisco and New York, to be honest. And the reason I went to San Francisco is because I met a cute boy on a dance floor who had just moved back from San Francisco to Austin. And I was like, oh, I've been thinking about checking that out. Do you know anybody? He's like, oh, let me give you my friend's name and phone number, who became a good friend of mine here in San Francisco that doesn't live here now, but he did for a while. So that's kind of what instigated it.
That little bit of fate where somebody just gave you the right connect, and that's how you ended up. That's the move from sort of like, I mean, you were from Austin, so you were in a city, but like not quite this kind of city.
And Austin in 1993 was not the Austin that it is today.
True.
It was very much I went to school there, and then I stayed there after I graduated because I was coming out of the closet and I wanted a safe place to do it, and Austin was that. But B, because I wanted to be in advertising, and there was a lot of advertising going on there. Yeah. But I did not want to move back to Dallas, where I grew up. Definitely.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I'm from Wisconsin, and I moved out to Los Angeles like nine and a half years ago. And I like that feeling of wanting to take on your life and just saying, I want to do something. I want to be in a place that's going to support all of the things that I want to be able to do. And I felt that Los Angeles really was that for me. Yeah. I really identify with that very deeply. So what was the transition like from advertising to interior design? How did you land there?
I ended up, when I came out here, also, there was a recession and there were no jobs. So I ended up having like 3 different jobs. I worked at Zuni Cafe.
We were just talking about that.
I worked at Macy's, and I worked for a small ad agency. And then I got a full-time job at the Gap in their corporate headquarters in the advertising department. And I just thought that my life had been made. I was so excited. Sure. And it was a fantastic company to work for, but my job wasn't creative. And I realized within the first year, I was like, corporate America is not going to be my thing. My job is not creative. I need to find something that I can make a living at and also love what I do. And I took a class. Berkeley Extension had an introduction to interior design class. I was going through a catalog, like thinking, okay, maybe I'll take a painting class or something. There was an introduction to interior design starting the next week. There was space in the class available, and I took the class. And it was sort of like it was a history of architecture and design, and it was a visit to upholstery workrooms, and it was a little bit of everything. But the final project was create a room in the city and create a room in the country. And I had such a blast doing it, and I loved it. And it was the first time in my life that I thought I could see myself making a living at this, being kind of good at it, and being happy doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were right.
I was right.
Wow.
It's funny because it was right when I moved. It's at the same time as I moved to San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
So we had John de la Cruz yesterday, and we talked about Zuni. And it's interesting because we all have that, right? And we drove by. I wanted to show Elyse what Zuni
We should go there today, I think.
I just had dinner there last night.
You
As a
did?
matter of fact, yes.
Really?
A friend of mine is in town from New York, and he was like, do you want to have dinner? I was like, you want to go to Zuni? He's like, absolutely.
See?
Okay.
And it's so funny because it's such the institution and the true. And look, I love San Francisco. It's change is changed, but it is a true San Francisco from that period. It was like that first restaurant. It was one of the first restaurants to be, I don't know, sexy, pop, like chic.
It was chic. It was the hot spot. And the reason I learned about it is because a friend of mine in Austin had a friend of his, Robert, who was the bartender at Zuni.
No way.
So I went into Zuni to meet him. And then I was like, I'm not getting any feedback from any advertising agencies. Are there any jobs here? And so I started working there.
That is so great. We should go there today.
All right.
Yeah, we've got a little time before we have to head back to Los Angeles, so I feel like we should stop there. Awesome.
Let's go to lunch at Zuni.
We'll do lunch at Zuni today.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
You must. You must.
That's great. So, so you took this class, this Berkeley Extension class, and you started getting that bug for interior design. And obviously it's been quite some time too since you started that. So as it started to build, what did that look like? From my perspective, I am really, really new to the design business, but I'm really eager for that moment when I do get my first client, So what did that feel like for you to get that first client and to work on that first job? Was it terrifying or was it more exciting?
Oh, it was both. It was definitely I had lots of sleepless nights about things will furniture fit up the stairs? Is this too big? Is it too small? All those things. But it's also very exciting. So I went back to school at Berkeley Extension. They have a certificate program. I didn't get I didn't get the certificate. I worked for about 2 years, but I also had a friend of a guy that I was dating. Was an interior designer. So I just said, can I come hang out in your space and see what this is like? He was a one-man show at the time. I ended up working for him for about 3 years, but that was at the very beginning of the first .com boom. So he was a one-man show. His business started building. I had a marketing background, and he opened a store on Sacramento Street. So I worked in the store and helped him get into magazines for the store, and started getting I remember there was a young woman, she was probably in her 20s too, because I still was back then, that came into the store and she just rented an apartment, and she was like, could somebody help me with design? So that was one of my first clients.
Wow.
Was helping her with some things that we had in the store, but then ordering furniture pieces and things like that. And I had a blast doing it. I remember she did not have, she didn't have a big budget, but she had some money to spend. But one of the things we did, she'd been traveling all over the U.S. after she graduated. She spent a year abroad, all over the U.S., all over Europe. She spent a year abroad. So we took her photos, and I would expand them on just a copy machine, so they would become really granulated, really big. And then we framed 20 of them. Wow. And that was the artwork in her house that cost $500.
Yeah.
So I really got scrappy with getting excited, talking about being creative. It was really, really fun.
That's a really fun idea. So you started getting really creative right away.
Yeah.
I love that. So, so now as your business started to grow, what are some things that you can look back on now that you really learned from your first, 5 years in the business? Some big revolutionary, that.
I mean, starting from scratch, going to school, and then starting my own thing, I did everything. So I think that was incredibly useful for me, and a tool that was just amazing to, I wrote all the purchase orders, I did all the accounting, I did everything from the beginning, rather than someone who worked for somebody else and came into this with large jobs and putting a team together and that sort of thing. So I thought that was incredibly useful. From a design perspective, one of the, I used to go, Diane Sakes used to do these a day in the life of, and it would have like several designers come in and do slide presentations, literal slides. That's how old I am. Literal slide presentations. But Suzanne Tucker was one of them. And I remember one of her things that she said is scale is the most important thing to think about for a designer in a room. If the scale is off, it doesn't matter how much money you spent. It could be $1 million living room. If the scale is wrong, it's not a successful room. So that was something that has been ingrained into my brain from day, 10 of being a designer, that making sure that the scale is right, that all the furniture is scaled correctly, not just in a room, but with each other as well. And while you can play with scale, like do things that are sort of overscaled for a space, I think that it has to be right in some way, shape, or form, or it's not successful.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful, because that's my pet peeve. Scale is what I do, and that's an amazing. It's funny also how you remember one. It's like going to a slideshow by Diane, and being like, I'm going to remember that.
And I don't remember what slide she was showing or what the interiors, but I just remember her saying that. And I was like, okay, this is an important thing to remember. There are things that you can learn in this business, but you have to be able to get the scale right. And it's funny because I've always played with scale a little bit, but I think it's always like, okay, put a really large painting in a really small room. Like playing with overscale is good, but if things are underscaled, they don't work.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is such a thing as successfully underscaled, like a small chandelier, but like that just doesn't work. A big chandelier in a small room, that could work.
Oh, okay. I mean, they say that everything's bigger in Texas, and so I'm sure that's probably where some of that influence comes from. But speaking of, do you feel that in your work that your Texas influence really shows through?
I don't know that I don't know.
I know that I took a look at your website and there's a picture of you on a horse. So
that's not Texas.
That was in Mexico. That was in Mexico. I would say yes, but I don't know what that influence is or was. I grew up in I didn't know that interior designers existed. I knew that architects existed, and I always thought, when I was a kid, I thought I would be an architect at some point because I wanted a 2-story house really bad, and I was going to have to probably design it myself and build it to have one because we never had a 2-story house. But I grew up where all of our mothers were the interior designers of the home, and so my mom would do that, would pick the furniture and the fabrics, and I loved being a part of it. So, and it was, I think our home was creative and interesting, that sort of thing. So I think it was always a little bit different from everybody else's, and I liked that, but I don't think I really knew what that meant. So I'm sure I was influenced by that, but I don't know if I was ingrained enough in the world of interiors in Texas to have been influenced.
You were really picking up on the details back then. Yeah, that makes sense. So what is it that influences your work right now? Like, what is something, even in a current project that you're working on, what is something that really sparked some inspiration or an influence for you?
That's a really great question. I think it's kind of everywhere. I mean, it's always, other people's work has always inspired me and still does. I think Pierre Jovanovic is a genius. I have loved Kelly Wearstler from day one, and I still do. So I still look at the things that she does, and I'm still in awe that she can be so intensely creative, having done this for so long. Sometimes I don't know about other people, but sometimes I get to a place where I'm like, I am not inspired by anything, and it's sort of like, that's when you need to go sit on a beach for a couple of weeks and not think about or look at design and just read something or, something else like that. But, so yeah, I think everything influences me these days. It's maybe traveling and seeing something new. It may be flipping through a magazine. It may be, going down a Pinterest rabbit hole on a Sunday with coffee, or, it's a little bit of everything.
But I also think that's, when Jay started here in San Francisco, the Bay Area was a hotbed we had antique stores, galleries. It was like that birth of we had antique stores up and down Jackson, Sacramento, the design center was packed with, galleries and so we had, and there were some really good designers already at the time. I mean, Michael Taylor in California. So we had this hotbed of design and inspiration that I think we spent a lot of time looking at things, and not to be a broken podcast, but we went and sat and saw and visited. And so I think that there's also, your eye gets, so now it's like, yeah, the Pinterest and all that stuff, but your eye gets shaped, by seeing. And that's why, for you, it's like doing the effort of going and sitting and touching, because that's where it really sips into your brain and your subconscious.
Yeah.
I will say that I've always been inspired by New York, but spending more time there now, I am incredibly inspired every time I go. And it's, it can be walking down the street and just seeing what people are wearing, or sitting in a cafe and watching people, walk by and kind of trying to guess who they are and what they do. But it's also going to, furniture galleries and things that I haven't seen in a while, or places that I haven't been in a while, or things that I haven't been to at all, and just seeing all of these wonderful, incredibly inspiring, furniture makers and lighting designers and artists and everything else. It really is like an amazing city to visit and to sort of become ingrained with.
Absolutely. I mean, even coming here, the first time that I was here was a few months ago. And I just sort of like took a tour through it, and I was like shooting some reels and stuff for the designer I was working for, and I kept finding myself looking at certain shapes and feeling something that I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this before, getting really curious about it. And even in this trip, we've spent a lot of time like walking through the DeSousa Hughes showroom, and like I'm like identifying. I'm like, oh, I can tell like who it is that made that, because this has their fingerprint on it, and getting a good sense of who is making what that style really looks like, what certain things feel like, and there's so much inspiration in that and interacting with it.
Oh yeah. Thank God for DeSousa Hughes.
Yeah.
San Francisco they can never go away, because San Francisco needs.
Yeah.
This design center is amazing, and it's great to have so many showrooms here, but they do keep getting a little smaller and a little smaller. And it's scary, because we need to be able to come and see and touch and feel and all of that. It's not the same looking at a chair on a tear sheet in front of your computer as it is sitting in it. It's just not.
Yeah, I haven't met a single designer so far that has said like, oh yeah, showrooms are unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like there's so much importance there.
Yeah.
And also everyone that we've had on the show since we've been here has spent some time in here shopping, looking, and using this time to like experience some of the furniture too. Of course, it's so necessary. Yeah.
It's interesting. That used to be a part of the client experience, was coming to the showrooms and sitting, and clients are less interested in doing that now. I think it's time. I think it's like, they've got other things that they need to be doing. So we're almost responsible for, knowing how the client lives their lives, and how, I look at a client that's like 6'3", and then you can say like, okay, you're not going to be comfortable in that chair, so we cannot show you that chair, kind of a thing. Like it's almost like we have a responsibility, not just of creating a wonderful space, but also knowing whether it's going to be, a comfortable, inviting space for the inhabitants, because there's less interest in coming to the showrooms. But also there's so much that we do show our clients that you can't see in San Francisco.
Right.
There's that too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's the middle ground of being able to offer. The internet, it's nice. You have a bigger offering. It's more international. I get that, but there's also something to say about sitting, touching, and seeing. But you also go to New York. You see those things. So it's like you can you can show your clients online, but there's also this thing like I've seen that. I know what it's about.
Yeah. I mean, there are things that will come, and like I'll sit in this chair, and if I know the client's not coming in, I might say like, take a picture of me on forward, take a picture of me from the side, so you can kind of see how I sit in it, and I will show that to clients sometimes as well, just to make sure that it's comfortable, and or get their sign off on it, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I want to get to your hotel and what that experience is like. It has to be such an incredibly creatively liberating experience. So it's called the Madrona, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And where is it located?
In Healdsburg.
Where is that?
Healdsburg is in the Sonoma wine country.
Okay, yes. I did know that. Like, Sonoma was what I remembered. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait.
It's in Sonoma.
Okay.
It's in Sonoma County.
Okay,
you have the town of Sonoma, and you have a lot of other towns in Sonoma, and
Yeah.
Healdsburg is one of them.
Okay. So how did that come to be?
That is definitely a COVID baby for me.
Yeah.
I was, during the pandemic, it was 2020. I had a home in St. Helena at the time, so I was basically living in St. Helena. And it was Memorial Day weekend, so end of May. And my friend Frank Nolan with Vanguard Real Estate, he was getting ready to put this hotel on the market. And we had been chatting with each other. He was up in Healdsburg. They have a place in Cloverdale. So we were kind of like, what are you doing this weekend? And we're like, well, we don't know. It's a pandemic, so probably not much, you know? And he was like, come see this hotel. It's closed. You should check it out. I don't think he was thinking for a second like to buy it, but he was just thinking like it's something to do kind of thing, and you should come check it out. It's really cool. And so went up there, and probably never would have done this had it not been a pandemic, because I would have had a party for Memorial Day or somewhere to go or out of town or something like that. So we went. It was myself and my ex-partner and a friend and a couple other people. We all went up there, and it was closed down, and I was sort of like literally blown away, because you drive up a hill immediately, and it's this wooded oasis, and this mansion kind of presents itself to you on the left, and then the Dry Creek Valley are amazing views to the right. And I was just like, what is this magical place that I didn't even know it existed. And spent like 3 hours there, literally drinking rosé with the owner at the time. Their daughter was there, drinking rosé and walking through every single room and opening every closet door and everything. And I left there thinking, I'm going to come up with a fantastic design for this hotel, and whoever buys it, Frank's going to introduce me, and I'm going to be like, here's your design. You need to hire me to do this. So that's kind of what I went away with. And slowly but surely, some other people, like, a consultant that works in hospitality, came into my world, and he knew this property and he knew the owners of it and had some backstory, and was also like, here's how you could make it work. And my brother's in the real estate finance world, and he, his company gives large loans to big hotels and things like that. So he knows the hospitality industry as well. He's more conservative than I am, so I kind of sent all this information to him saying, this is kind of the price of it, this is what it could be, like, what do you think? Fully expecting him to come back and say, this is a terrible idea, run away, don't do it, here's why. And he came back and he was like, if you could get it for this price, then I think this could be, a viable, thing to do. So we started down the path of finding investors and finding a loan, because nobody was giving hospitality loans at the time, and dealing with the crazy owners that really didn't want to sell, but were in a place where it was time for them to sell, and those kind of things. And it was crazy. It was also during the 2020 election that all this was happening. So we went through that, and then we ended up closing in February of 2021, and I had pretty much designed most of the hotel by then.
Yeah.
Like we kind of started the process with knowing what the direction was for everything, for the design of the rooms and what we were doing with the hotel, and started swinging hammers in April of 21 and reopened in April of 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It was crazy. It was a crazy year of crazy construction, and it being a property that was 3 of the buildings were built in 1880. One of them was the original ranch building that was built in 1862, but it had been changed up enough that it wasn't really recognizable as to what it was, I think, except that it had no foundation. So we realized we had to jack it up and put a new foundation in and put it back on. So there were a lot of surprises like that, but it was also like incredibly rewarding, incredibly, like you said, it was an opportunity to be so creative and so I had investors to answer to, and I had a budget to work with. But otherwise, it was really my inspiration, my design, my sort of ideas, working with my brother, who from a design perspective, he was like yes to whatever I said, unless it was really crazy, and then he was like, "Is that really crazy?" And then working with another partner, Corey Schisler, who had great hospitality experience. We designed a scent for the hotel. We chose the robes, we chose the sheets. So, it was what the products were going to be, literally all the dishes, like everything for this entire hotel we selected. And so that was incredibly rewarding.
How much time do you get to spend up there now?
Not as much as I would like. I would love to spend more. Like literally the first year, I think I was there pretty much every weekend.
Okay,
and having parties and introducing it to the hotel, to the world, and having events there and that sort of thing. And it's got a really amazing team on the ground there, that our general manager, V, and everybody there is just incredible. So it runs itself very well right now, which I'm really excited about. I was just there. My sister-in-law turned 40, so my brother and she and probably, I don't know, 16 of their friends came up mostly from LA, and that was a blast. So I was sort of got to be there, having an event and as a guest instead of the hotel owner, which was kind of fun. But it's fun to be there as the hotel owner too.
Yeah. So do you see yourself wanting to do this again?
I pause only. I mean, it was a very rewarding thing. Running it is not as rewarding as creating it was. I would absolutely love to do it again. I would love for this to become a brand, but I need somebody with deep pockets. If anybody's out there that wants to join me, please give me a call. Deeper pockets than I have. I would need a really big investor, and then I would absolutely do it. I would love to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that idea of you walking through the rooms of this closed hotel and opening up the closets and getting a bunch of ideas for it, and now being able to walk through it with your dream having come true with it. Yeah.
But it's also fun because interior design, I mean, it is, building homes, or, there's that hospitality part. You design a house for people to stay there and, live there. And so it must be really rewarding to do it at that scale with your personal, like not hired by a company, but your personal touch. Yeah. And feeling that home too.
It was super exciting. It was really fun. And I'm so grateful for all the relationships that I've made throughout my career, because I really used them.
Everybody showed up.
Will and Raquel did an incredible mural in the entrance of the ceiling, in exchange for, a couple of weeks at the hotel, that sort of thing. Like I messaged Javier Robles, who has Loomer for Lighting in New York, because I just had this vision for this chandelier in the dining room, and it was very much inspired by the work that he already does, but I would never have been able to afford it. So I sent him some information, a rendering and that sort of thing. And his message back was, "I'd love to help." So many people came out of the woodworks, and he was like, "I've been wanting to create kind of a hospitality line based on some of the work I already do." So he created this hospitality line for me, but for him to sell to other hotels. But he created something that fit into our budget that looks amazing. So many people came out of the woodworks and doing these kind of things for us. It was incredible.
That is the relationship that you build over the years, talking to fabricators, to artists. You cannot get that through the internet, and that's that's the beauty of our industry. And we try to. My big pet peeve is obviously we started at the same time. I'm a people person. I make furniture, and I think that having that conversation, and for you and younger designers, that conversation, that personal touch, that paid off after 20 years of talking to those people. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, it's also a matter of because you had an idea and because you trusted someone with it, they were able to let this be an opportunity for them to grow. And that's how things move forward. When you have an idea and you open up a door, then someone walks through it and is able to open up a door. Like that's how that works.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's like where the evolution comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any exciting projects that you have like that are coming up that you're currently working on?
We are, yes, I'm trying to think of what we've kind of finished. So that's why my hesitation is I've just completed a big project in Carmel Valley with Richard Beard Architects in the Santa Lucia Preserve, which was a dream project. Amazing clients. This was the second home that we've done for them, but it was ground up construction. It was inspired by estancias of Argentina. It's still there. Parts of it are still under construction. Was my hesitation. I'm like, it's done, but it's not really done. It's like we're still working on it. There's an ADU and horse stables that we're doing that I've never done a project with stables in it, which has been really fun.
Yeah.
So that's been an incredible project that I've really loved. We just had a bunch of installations. We're finishing up one in Calistoga that I'm super excited about. On the valley floor in Calistoga with beautiful vineyard views and all the mountains behind it. And of course, it's like one of those where it starts out where your client is like, I just want to do a little furnishings, and then and then it turns into, we hate this one bathroom, so we're going to change this bathroom. And then it's like, as long as we're doing this bathroom, what about this bathroom? And what about this bathroom? We're going to add on a master suite back here. The entire outside has been changed. So
Well, the kitchen now doesn't look as good as the rest. So
yes,
might as well get it done too.
it's like, how do we get over budget? I'm like, how did you get over budget?
This started with one sofa. I love it.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I have some clients that have become very dear friends that I've done a couple of projects for, but they're empty nesters now. They're living in New York part-time. They just bought an apartment here in San Francisco. So we're getting ready to remodel that. And so it's just a jewel box of excitement. They're really fun. So I'm excited to be working with them again and creating something new and different. They love to take chances and do things in an unusual way. So we're really excited about it. So that's another fun one.
Beautiful. So there are 3 questions that I ask of all of our guests. So I'm going to get to those now.
Okay.
So the first question, because this podcast is called Clutter Bravado, we care about the mess. So what is the messiest place in your home?
The top drawer in the chest next to my kitchen.
The one where there's the flashlight, the keys.
It's literally the junk drawer, as they call it, but it is so full. Because also, if people are coming over and I need to just put some of my clutter away, it just gets shoved in there, and it usually doesn't get taken out. So it's overflowing with there are probably 40 chapsticks in there that need to that have this.
There's
much
40 chapsticks in my purse right now.
Need to be thrown away badly. Yeah.
Amazing. But otherwise, do you consider yourself very neat and tidy, very organized, everything is in its right place?
No.
No?
I like for it to be, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I literally have to tidy up my apartment.
Yeah.
Every morning, I have to, or there's crap everywhere,
Yeah.
I get home and there are shoes over here and there are keys over here and there's, and this is an 850 square foot apartment. It's not, I don't live in a big apartment in San Francisco, and there's crap everywhere.
Yeah.
And I wake up in the morning, I'm like, why don't you just get undressed in one place and put it all away, Jay? At 56 years old, and I ask myself this on a daily basis. Okay, sorry. We digress. Next question.
I completely understand. I'm right there with you, honestly. Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll be in my apartment. I look around. I'm like, who did all this? I'm like, I live alone.
And I love to organize. I love designing kitchens for my clients and where everything's gonna go and all that. I just never put it back where it's supposed to go. That's my problem.
I appreciate that, actually. I appreciate that, honestly. We've had a lot of very tidy, very particular people on here, and just you're like, you know what? It is what it is. Yeah. Things go where they go.
If you come over, it's gonna look like
of course, yes.
Don't open the drawers.
Or the closet.
Or the closet.
Okay, our second question. What is your favorite place, either in your own home or in a place that you've designed?
Oh God, that is favorite place is really a tough one.
Like if you just quick answer, when you think of a place that you've designed or a space that you've designed that you really connect with, what is that one?
The first place I thought of is my apartment in New York. There is a chair from Koreatown that is covered in, lamb's wool. So it's fuzzy and furry and it's comfortable and it's a good morning coffee spot.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
My dog is basically the exact same color, so he matches it
just
perfectly.
Blends in.
Yeah. It's a good spot.
Yeah, and the morning coffee is so important. So anywhere that you can feel like you're settled in. Yeah, like that. Okay, last question. When you walk into a new space, what is the first thing that you notice?
Probably the light.
The light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably determining okay, does it have good daylight, sunlight? What is the non-natural light capabilities or possibilities? Usually I want to take all that away anyway. But it's probably the light.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why did you fall in love with the Madrona? What was the gut feeling?
It's a combination, but it's just magical, and it really started from the moment you drive through these. Right. The gates are like the gates that were added in the 1920s that you drive through. It's almost like you're entering Disneyland. They're very strange. They don't really match with the rest of the place. So it's like you're already thinking like, what is this weird place? And then you start up a hill and it's just green and lush and wonderful, and then the mansion kind of presents itself. It's one of those, like, I've only had this 3 or 4 times in my life where I could see its entire future like the minute I got there. There's a parking lot in the center of the space, and I still, to this day, the parking lot's still there, unfortunately, but everything else is kind of built around it. And I got out of my car and I was like, this is where the pool should be. And someday the pool will probably go there. This is where the pool should be. Yeah. I could hear the music playing. I could see the colors of the buildings. I could really see the entire future of the space the minute I got there.
That's incredible.
Great. Well, I'm going to come stay there.
Okay, you're going to Zuni today, exactly. And then you have to go to the Madrona.
Great. Sounds good.
Good.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come sit down with us. Sure. I really love your story, and I'm excited to see what is coming next. I appreciate how real and how really down to earth you are, considering how much talent is in this person in front of me. So
well, thank you.
I really appreciate you.
It was fun to do it.
Thank you so much.
It was a good distraction in my day.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sure.